I'm going to be telling my story how I went to minimum wage making $7.25 an hour to making multiple six figures. And I never thought I could be where I am today. Hey, this is future Zoe at the end of the video. I'm going to ask you if you don't mind, if you're excited for this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. I've found myself telling this story quite a bit recently, and so I thought that I might make a YouTube video about it. So my name is Zoe Kahn. I am the owner of Inevitable Agency, a happy accident agency, I like to call it. It's a marketing agency with a niche in customer experience. And we'll get into that, but I first want to start off by talking about how I just got into my career in general. So after high school, I actually wanted to be a dietitian. That was the goal. I went to school for 1 semester at Illinois State University, and something happened. We won't get into it. That could be another life story YouTube video that if you'd like to see, we can talk about later. But I had an unfortunate situation happen, and I had to drop out of school at the time, and I just went to work. So I was living in Illinois at the time. I went to, after I dropped out of school, I was working at Planet Fitness and Culver's at the same time. And it wasn't where I wanted to be, but I did the best job that I could at both of the places. I actually really, really liked working at Culver's, and that was it was just an interesting experience. And I really wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to be doing that forever. And then I basically ran away to North Carolina with a boy. And from there, I got a job at a frozen yogurt shop, all while still being very interested in dietetics and nutrition and gym, all those things. But I was making $7.25 an hour, and I went back to school. I was going back to school part-time so that I could pursue dietetics. And this is just, it's a very shaping part of my life. And I should note, just like going back a little bit, before even graduating high school, I always had jobs. I started to caddy when I was 13, carrying golf clubs. And even before that, I was raking lawns, mowing lawns. I was shoveling snow so that I could go and get ice cream with my friends, and etc. So I've always been a very hard worker, and I've been able to juggle a lot in my life. So when I was in North Carolina, again, I was working for $7.25 an hour and trying to go back to school. I was, again, studying dietetics, and I ended up actually leaving the frozen yogurt shop because I was competing in bodybuilding. So when I wanted to kind of pursue more of this health, nutrition, etc., I fell in love with working out and going to the gym. And I actually lost 50 pounds, and I was going to the gym, and people kept asking me if I was competing. And so then I was like, well, if people keep asking me if I'm competing, I'm going to go into it. And you may be asking, why does any of this matter for get to the part where you make multiple six figures? We'll get there. I wanted to make this video because all of these little tidbits of my life shaped me to who I am and how I got here, which is very interesting. And I want to include all the details because I think the main theme of it is not being afraid of what people think of you. And the bodybuilding was actually a jump start into realizing that if you worry about what people think about you, it can hold you back. And you have no idea what it can hold you back from. So I remember deciding if I wanted to compete in bodybuilding. And I remember also thinking, what is everyone going to think of me? What's my family going to think of me when I'm in this little bikini on stage, posting pictures, all these things? What are my friends going to think about me? All these things. And I just made a decision then that I'm not going to care. And it wasn't really easy, but every time that I started to make decisions for me and, I made a conscious decision not to care about what others thought, these decisions got easier. And now today, it's now it's like 10 years later, and I don't ever think about what other people think about me. So I wanted to start this like moving to North Carolina, running away to North Carolina, and competing in bodybuilding were two really big decisions that I made that I was worried what people would think about me. And then I decided not to care, and I proceeded with what I wanted to do with my life. And I ended up competing in bodybuilding, and it made the frozen yogurt shop very hard to work at because I couldn't eat any of it and I would just smell it all day. And so I went to try to find another job. And I thought, I'm learning all of this about nutrition and supplements. I started taking supplements for when I was competing. And so I said, I'm going to walk into GNC and see if they'll hire me. So I did that. I walked into a franchise GNC. I asked for a job and they gave me one. And I actually worked at a franchise GNC, if you guys, most of you probably know, but supplements. I worked at 2 franchises and I hated it. I really liked the customers and like the idea behind the supplements, but I wasn't trained properly and I was having a really hard time because of that. And I just wanted to learn more. So I decided, I think I worked there for maybe 4 to 6 months, and I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. And so I told the franchise director that I was going to be moving on, and she said, please don't completely leave GNC. You have so much potential. You care so much about this. Go apply at the GNC on base. I'm putting in a good word for you, and see if they'll hire you in a corporate store. And I was like, oh, interesting. The corporate stores, the ones that send all their returns to us. If you know, you know. And so I went and I applied, or no, actually it's the other way around. The corporate store where the franchise operator told us to send all the returns to. If you know, you know, opposite. But I went and I applied and I gave GNC another chance. And I am so happy that I did because I ended up going to one of the number one selling or like highest volume GNCs in America, really. We were a very busy store on a military base, a Marine Corps military base, and it challenged me to the maximum level that you can be challenged working in a supplement store. I was a little blonde girl who was dealing with buff Marines who had nothing better to do than to work out and spend their money on supplements. And it was amazing. I really had to know my shit. I had to, anytime there was a new supplement that came in, I needed to know every single little ingredient and what it did to the body and the science behind it. And because if I didn't, I wasn't able to do my job properly because I had to be very knowledgeable. And if I didn't know the answer to something that someone came in and asked, I would immediately ask and research. This is also a very pivotal moment in my life because I met a lot of amazing people, but someone who's in my life now, and again, this was, I believe this was about eight years ago now, but my assistant manager at the time when I was a store associate, her name's Brittany Furs, And it'll come full circle because later on in the story, she'll come back into my life. But she ended up being like one of my best friends. I learned so much from her about leadership, about supplements, about just being a good worker. She really, really shaped me for who I am. And like, she showed me, just good work ethic and she's just amazing. And she ended up, side note, like living coincidentally down the block from me. And so we spent a lot of time together, and she ended up leaving, and I was, happy doing what I was doing, still going to school, working at GNC. I ended up making like pretty decent money at GNC too, I believe I was 20 years old now. Yep, I was 20 years old. And when Brittany was leaving, her position was opening for assistant manager at the store. I didn't even apply for this because I, as a 20-year-old, didn't think that I could have been qualified, or maybe I was 21 at this time. I did work at that GNC for quite a bit. I didn't think I was qualified. I just was like, I'm young and I'm still learning, and I do the best that I can at my job. But the manager asked me if I would apply. And so I did. I had no idea what I was doing, but somehow I got the position. And that was another very pivotal moment, because although I was young, I was put into this position to lead others who, many were older than me. And I had to learn how to manage a team. Sometimes we would have, we had a team of almost 10 people at times, and we would have multiple people working. If you guys know and you've seen GNCs, it's not a GNC like you would see in your normal, hometown where there's only one person working. This was a very, very busy store that had 3 registers, and a lot of times all 3 registers were being used, and there was lines out the door. We had so much fun things there. We would have Jay Cutler, the bodybuilder, like come and visit our store and sign, signatures and all these things. We had just like, it was so great. We had all these vendors come in and sample all these things. So it was a very, very busy store. And I had the pleasure somehow to assistant manage that store. And I learned so much. Within this time, I actually started to make pretty decent money with, the working on a military base. The minimum wage on a military base was different than like the minimum wage at in North Carolina. And I also started making money from, just KPIs. And I learned what even a KPI was and how to track and like how to follow procedures and make sure everything gets done, and what's important, make sure like you do what's one most important for the customer, but then 2, what's most important for the company. And so I learned all of these core business functions from GNC, from working at a very well-known GNC in the GNC world. And yeah, I learned a lot. It was time for me to move on from there. Again, I was still going to school on and off, trying to get my nutrition degree part-time. I ended up, staying at GNC for a lot of that time. And I competed in 3 different bodybuilding shows. And I met a lot of people competing in those bodybuilding shows, etc. So it's time for me to move back to Chicago. I moved back to Chicago. I ended up managing the highest volume GNC in downtown Chicago, which RIP is not there anymore. They got broken into during COVID and couldn't come back, which is really sad because I turned that GNC around. They actually would send me to different GNCs, me and Brittany actually, to different GNCs that weren't performing well, or their store looked like shit. And they would have us do trainings, and they would have us clean up the store and help out, get that back to like a good spot. Occasionally they would have us, just go in and just like turn stores around. And so they really enjoyed putting me into stores that used to do well, but weren't anymore. And I would go in and I would train the staff, and I would, turn the store around, and it was amazing. It was really, really fun to work towards these things. And also that's kind of where I understood where, like, if you meet the needs of the customer and you understand your job, a lot of times you can also meet the needs of the business, because the more people you help, the more business that you can get. And it's just like this happy tunnel of experience. And that's where I really learned, how to operate a business in a very organized fashion, how to hire, how to fire. I have so many stories of like hiring and firing and all these things. There's lots of GNC stories I could go into. But I then GNC downtown Chicago actually ended up being very unsafe. I got threatened nearly at gunpoint a couple times. I got multiple gang members coming in and threatening my life. I had theft every single day. I had my security guard got jumped and beaten. They beat the shit out of him, and there was blood everywhere. And like, so many crazy things happened at that downtown Chicago GNC. And I didn't feel safe. And so I asked them to move me to a different GNC that I could feel more safe at as a woman, or just anyone in general. And yes, so I moved to a suburb GNC. And while I was in Chicago, I met the team at Ghost. I met someone who used to come into GNC. His name was CJ. He still works at Ghost actually, and he would drop off samples. And Ghost was just like this little baby. At the time, they were on the bottom shelf of a gondola, actually growing, because they were still around when I was still they were around when I was in North Carolina. I remember watching YouTube videos of like the the influencers who started with Ghost and post about them. And then I saw the first whey protein. It was cereal milk come into the shelves on the Camp Lejeune's bottom shelf of a random sports nutrition gondola. And I really, really liked following the Ghost journey. And so it was really cool for me to meet some of the Ghost team, because I had watched some of the influencers and seen it grow. And so by the time I was leaving GNC, I had met lots of different sports nutrition and supplement, people in the industry. But I always really looked up to the Ghost people, because it was something different, and they had very authentic collabs. And the owner of Ghost, Dan, he had come into GNC, or one of our manager meetings, and I connected with him. It's crazy, because I remember the meeting that he came into. It was just this in this random mall in like a shut down store that we were having a manager meeting in. I don't know. Thinking back, it was like kind of such an odd place to have a manager meeting, but that's neither here nor there. And Dan, one of the owners of Ghost, came in and was telling the store managers about what's innovative, what's coming up, what to look forward to. I remember they announced that they were coming out with vegan protein, which seems so crazy, because there's multiple vegan protein flavors. Ghost has grown so much. This was before Ghost energy drinks. Way before. And then when I was leaving GNC, I actually decided I really like GNC, but I was starting to feel kind of stuck and bored, and that I had exhausted all of my learnings to a point where, I looked at some of the leaders at GNC, and it just wasn't attractive to me at that time. And although I loved GNC, I just felt like there was something more out there for me. And so I decided that since it was very hard for me to go to school and work full time, that I was going to try and take out some loans and go to school. And going back a little bit, I actually didn't end up doing this in the first place, because I couldn't get any loans for school. I tried to get some grants, but the grants only covered so much. And I didn't have any credit at the time when I was trying to, apply for loans, and I had no one to co-sign for me. So I had a really hard time going to college, and I had to pay out of pocket for most things. So even just like trying to afford books and trying to afford to pay for the classes and all these things, I could get little bitty loans, but it didn't cover nearly I couldn't do a full semester with full credits, and I tried really hard, and I tried to get help, but it was just very, very hard to just do when it was very hard without credit and everything. So I kept going to school and stopping and going to school and stopping all throughout this time, from like North Carolina back to Illinois, all these things. So I decided I've built up some credit. I got a credit card, when I was 19 or 18, and I built up credit, and I was able to get a loan. So I actually got into the dietetics program at University of Illinois at Chicago. And so I said, I'm going to focus on that so that I can finish that, and I will be a dietitian. I'm going to do it. So now I think it's 2017, and I'm leaving GNC, and the people at Ghost said that they were hiring. Again, Ghost was still so small. They were still working out of a WeWork office in Chicago, and they were just moving into their new office in Chicago, where they are now. I was employee number 8, I believe. I think there was like 3 or 4 people that started like the same day as me, but I decided. So I don't know if I skipped a part, but when I was leaving GNC, Ghost was hiring part-time customer support. And I said, okay, I can do that. I could probably work part-time customer support and if they're willing to work around my school schedule and all these things. And to be honest, I was like not super pumped about doing customer support. It just didn't seem like a glamorous job. And although I loved Ghost, I was like, I don't want to be dealing with, just like angry people all day, people yelling at me. And I thought that's what it would be like. So I was like, let me give this a chance. I'm going to work for them. We'll see how it goes. Like a week or 2 weeks in, I fell in love with the job. I was just enamored by like understanding how it works behind the scenes, meaning like a business. I didn't make good money. I had probably, since going from like North Carolina, very well-known, busy GNC, to this job, I made less than half the money. And I won't say like how much I made in each of these places, but not good money. I went through, let's just say I wasn't making good money. But I loved it. I loved it. And I ended up, going to class and getting distracted because I really wanted to just be working. And although I knew that, I wanted to be a dietitian, I just could not get my head out of how to improve Ghost as a business. I don't know. I just was so passionate about it. And so I was trying to go to school, but I was so distracted by work that I would miss class to, fix something at work. And although they didn't ask me to ever do that, they even asked me one day, they're like, wait, Zoe, aren't you supposed to be in class? And I'm like, yeah, I just decided I don't want to go anymore. And they were like, oh my God. So before I knew it, it didn't take me long to start working full time for Ghost. And, I ended up working my way up to customer support manager. I did so many things there. I even helped out open up a warehouse in Nevada where I hired a couple agents to work for me out at that warehouse so that they could be present for fulfillment issues, all these things. I really learned e-commerce and how to build an online business and omni-channel, because we had products in different retailers, GNC being the biggest one at the time. I just learned so much through simply starting as a customer support agent, a part-time customer support agent. I could not believe that in that moment when they asked me to come work for them or apply to work for them when I was working at GNC leaving, and being like, it doesn't seem like a glamorous job, but I guess I can do it. I would have never thought I could learn as much as I learned by just starting as a part-time customer support agent. It was insane. I met so many great people. I learned so many things. Such great business learnings and challenges and building a team and working remotely through COVID and all of that. And then while I was at Ghost, we came out with a product called Gamer. Gamer is a nootropic that is lower stimulant, but very good for focus. And so it has a little bit of stimulants in it, so caffeine and a couple different ingredients to help with stimulation, but also lots of nootropic, brain fuel ingredients. When we came out with that, we started a Twitch channel, and I had no idea what Twitch was. And this was all, it happened right before COVID. And they needed help, moderating the Twitch and just kind of popping in and, helping out. We had a team, people would play. They needed support in the chat to help moderate all these things. So I learned how to, operate Twitch and understand Twitch. And I started to play, COD with the boys at work just for fun, especially because then COVID happened and there was nothing better to do. So I ended up buying a PC from someone at work who wanted to get a new one. And I took his PC, and I still have it somewhere. But I started playing PC, Call of Duty on PC with them. And I had so much fun. Literally, the Warzone days of COVID were some of my best, my favorite memories ever. Crazy. But we would just stay up. So we would work from, I don't know, I worked so much during COVID because there was so many unknowns that we weren't able to hire at the time and whatever. So I would work from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I would take a break. I had, little meal breaks in there, but then I would stream until 2 a.m. and I would play, and I started streaming just because I was playing anyways. And I didn't ever think that I was going to build a following or anything, but I started to get obsessed with this Twitch community because I started playing video games online and with the guys from work. And then I didn't have anything better to do during the weekends because I was just stuck at home in Chicago in COVID. And so I just streamed and I streamed and I streamed. And before I knew it, I was making good money streaming part-time. And one day I got this message on Instagram, and it said, "Hey, I think you'd be a good candidate for this TV show." And I was like, this is for sure a scam. I'm going to entertain it. And turns out it wasn't a scam. They said, I got through these interview processes, and they said, okay, we want to have you on this TV show. It's in Australia. It's going to be on this new streaming platform called Peacock. And we can't tell you too much, but it's an active show, and we're looking for gamers who are into fitness. And I was so thrown off because people kept asking me too, because you weren't allowed to go into Australia at the time to travel. And so it just seemed so sketchy. And I was like, what the hell is this Peacock? Peacock wasn't a thing when this was coming out. So I talked to the guys at work, And I said, hey, I have this opportunity. Should I go do it? I don't know. Can I like leave for up to 6 weeks and come back? I'm not sure. All these things. So I ended up doing it. I went to Australia. I ended up actually just quitting Ghost. And it was such an emotional thing because I loved that job so much. I'm so forever grateful for that job. There was like, obviously a job's a job and there's challenges and there's hardships and it's lots of learning and whatever, but I loved that job so much. It shaped me again into who I am today. And it was really, really hard to leave, especially because the Ghost people were my best friends. They were they were just my everything. So leaving was really hard, but I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I have to take this leap of faith and go film this TV show in Australia. And again, another theme of like not being afraid to take risks, leave something that is so comfortable and like giving you, I left my benefits, I left my consistent pay, I left a very, very well-known company. But I just I don't know, I had a feeling like I could figure it out. And so yeah, I quit my job. I flew to Australia. I stayed there for 6 weeks. I competed in this show called Frogger. You can look it up on Peacock, season 1, episode 4. I am Gamer Girl in the show, and I competed. You can watch it and see how I did. And while I was there in Australia, you could get into Australia if you were supplying jobs for Australians during COVID. So that's why we were able to have this TV show, and it's an American TV show. Yeah, they were able to film this TV show, supply jobs to Australians, and it was this whole thing. I had to quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks. I've talked about it on the podcast before. You can go look at me crying about chicken bones and stuff. If you want to know, I'll explain, but comment down below if you want to know. But Australia ended up being pretty shut down while we were there. And so I just streamed the entire time that I wasn't filming the show. And after the show, I flew home and I was like, I don't know what's next, but I'm going to see how I'll do if I just pursue streaming. And I'm not going to pretend that I made millions of dollars or anything, but I had a couple partnerships and I made money from subs and ads and all these things. And I was able to support myself by literally playing video games full time. And I did that for 6 months. And then I didn't know what was next for me. I didn't actually want to get back into e-commerce because I was kind of over the whole customer support world. And it's so crazy to think back to those moments because now I like customer experience, which is, I can explain the difference, but that actually was kind of the biggest thing is that in the role that I was at Ghost, the experience in my mind wasn't taken it was just a different time. Customer support was looked at as customer support and not much more than that. And there's no fault to Ghost or anything. And I don't think that that's true today. But I was also young in my career and I didn't even understand at the time what customer experience or retention or marketing really was. And so I had some limiting just knowledge on that stuff, even though I freaking killed it in that position. Let me just gas myself up for a little bit. Just kidding, kind of. But I really, really cared about my job and I wanted to create efficiencies and use the tools right and all these things. So I didn't really want to get back into e-commerce, but I got approached by Chomps, the meat sticks. Use code Zoe15 is still live if you want to use it. for 15% off your meat sticks. Chomps.com. Yeah, so I actually got approached by Chomps to apply for the customer experience. I believe the role was like senior associate of customer experience. And I said no to the interview like 3 times. And then they actually ended up telling me, what the pay and the benefits are. And I was like, you know what, it was much more than I was making on Twitch at the time. And also I remembered that I used to make good money on Twitch part-time too. So I was like, well, let me see if I can, let me entertain this. Then even just during the interview process of Chomps, I fell in love with their mission, and I realized how much I missed e-commerce and direct to consumer and online business and working with a team and building something really cool. And I actually didn't even know what Chomps were before I started applying there. And but some of my friends did. Like Jackie knew what Chomps were. And I ended up getting the position, and then I worked my way up to customer experience and retention manager. My old boss, who I loved so dearly, her name was Alicia. She led user experience and retention. And when she was leaving, someone had to take over some of just basically the retention stuff that included loyalty, subscription, SMS, email, all those things that I was kind of integrated in. I was definitely more integrated in the subscription and loyalty and less in the email and SMS side. So I decided to raise my hand to accept those responsibilities, and I learned so much from that. That also shaped me to who I am today, to just raise my hand and say I would like a challenge, and I'm up for it. And again, something very scary that I didn't necessarily know that I would be good at, but I just took a chance and I tried it, and I did. I will say a lot of these things that I have not known how to do, I don't not only raise my hand, but I know that if I don't have experience in something and I'm raising my hand to do something, I'm going to, outside of work hours, research and learn and read and absorb as much as I can, ask other people, and figure out how to do the job well. And I've always been like that, just because I just feel like I need to, if I'm going to be doing something, I need to do it the best of my ability, even if I don't like where I'm at. Even when I was at Culver's flipping burgers, I needed to be the best, the most efficient, the quickest bun master. I'm pretty sure was my the bun master was definitely my title, and I wanted to make sure that I buttered those buns as quick as I can. I needed to be the quickest bun butterer. And I think that's really key in my success too, because I truly do believe that if you want to move forward in your career or in your life, opportunity will come to you if you display really great workmanship, no matter where you're at. Because if you think about it, when I was at GNC, and even though I knew it's not where I wanted to be, I showed that I was a great worker and that I cared about my job, to the point where Ghost invited me to work for them. And I really, really think that that's one of the keys to my success now that I look back at it, because I never went back to school. I realized that I loved e-commerce so much, and then I ended up, working my way up into making eventually, with my multiple streams of income. I was making 6 figures at that point in this story now, because I had multiple partnerships from Twitch, and then I had my main job, and then I don't know how this happened, but it's also again, kind of, it goes out to like putting yourself out there and learning more. So when I was at Chomps, again, I wanted to be the best at what I did. And I knew that to be the best at what you do, you need to go out there and learn from others. And so I sought out different mentors. I sought out different programs. I wanted to invest in myself and like learn from others. And I've ended up learning that there's this whole love and community out there for customer experience and retention and D2C. And one of the people who really shaped my, next steps is Eli Weiss, who at the time he was working at Olipop. And I don't know how I came across Eli, but I was going to sign up for Mentor Pass with him, which is crazy full circle because I'll just say it now because I'll probably forget. I'm now on Mentor Pass, which I would have never ever like realized. If you look up Mentor Pass Zoe Kahn, you can book sessions with me to learn more about customer experience, retention, everything that I do now. I was going to book Mentor Pass time with Eli because I wanted to learn more from him. And somehow, like where there was a guy on, I don't even remember, someone's like cold email or was like, he just said, Eli's my friend. Let me just like connect you with him. And Eli and I got on a call and I was asking him all these questions about customer experience and like how to grow in the career and like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Like, just tell me how to grow. And it was a very, another pivotal moment for me because I realized in that moment, I understood that I had severe imposter syndrome, severe. I knew what I was doing. I just needed to be confident in it and like really just lean into what I was already doing. And obviously there was so much to learn, but I realized that I actually was really good at what I did. And Eli really helped me understand that. And he told me a couple of cool things. One, get on Twitter. Now X. Get on X and connect with all of the D2C e-commerce people on there. Not like connect where you're, just bogging down their DMs, but like mess around, joke around on Twitter, share your, share your wins, share your losses, be vulnerable. And I just started like realizing there's this whole e-commerce space on X, Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. And one day, I had, part of my story with Eli was telling him how I was playing video games and now I'm at Chomps and back in customer experience, all these things. And he knew that I knew how to operate Discord. And so he reached out to me one day and he was like, let's build a Discord community and invite only customer experience or customer experience adjacent people. And let's like build this thing because there's not a lot of good communities out there for customer experience. So let's build it ourselves. And I was like, hell yeah, this will be so fun. And so we started this Discord community, which I'll put a link in the description box for. And now today, I think that was like, I don't even know, that 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. I don't even know now. But so now there's over 1,300 people in there. It might be closer to 1,500 now of all customer experience or adjacent people in there. And I cannot believe it because when I was at Ghost, I had the hardest time connecting with other people. And I think that a lot of it was that I was looking for customer support, not just customer experience. And I'll take a moment to explain that now. Customer support, when you think about it and when it's typically looked at, is just the like reactive, answering the inbox, where it's what you typically think of, like, a customer has a problem, you help them. That's supporting your customers, right? The customer experience is actually way, way bigger than just answering your customers. It's like figuring out why your customers are upset, getting to the bottom of it, fixing the issues rather than putting Band-Aids on it, which I was doing all of this at Ghost. I didn't understand it. I almost like thought that like I didn't know enough to be a customer experience professional, but I didn't understand it at the moment. But it's also the customer journey of like, you know, the touch points that the customer has with your social media. It's how they feel when they open up their box, when they receive it at their door. It's how they like connect with your brand when they buy something in store and then they want to connect with you online. It's so much more than just the support inbox. And I started to really, really understand that. And all through this time, again, I'm just kind of having my head down, I just wanted to do a good fucking job at my job. I just wanted to be the best at what I do. So I kept pushing myself and learning and growing and making connections. And one day I received a email that said I was nominated for a Customer Experience Operator of the Year award. And my little imposter syndrome ass was like, this is cool. I'll attend this award show, but it was virtual. I'll attend this, but there's no way I'm actually going to win. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Or like, you know, I'm doing a good job at my job, but there's no way I'm going to win this like Customer Experience Operator of the Year. And also all throughout this, again, I didn't go back to school because I loved my job so much and I wanted to keep pursuing it. But I was nomadically at this point traveling the world while working. I ended up, traveling all over. I put all of my things in a storage unit, and I was like, why am I in Chicago if I don't want to be? And since I worked remote, I could work from wherever. So I ended up traveling all over the US, and then I flew to Israel, and I spent 6 weeks in Israel. I went to Amsterdam. I went to London. I went back to Israel. I went to all over, came back to the US, went all over. And I was nomadic at the time, and that's kind of like not too relevant, but I also was, still streaming and all these things. So at this point I started to make good money, or like what I thought was good money, because I had never ever in my, like, the way I grew up, I thought that I was going to be making 40K, if not for the rest of my life. That's just like, I don't want to say that's poverty, but I was in this like poverty mindset of like, I haven't finished school. I don't know what I'm doing with life. That's just like what I deserve. Like, it is what it is. I'm never going to be someone who makes a lot of money. And this, when we're talking about this part of my life, I was like, wow, like I can support myself. This is insane. Like I can comfortably put food on the table. I can comfortably start to travel a little bit. I can do anything I want. I can travel the world. Like, it was so powerful for me to like understand that I could do literally whatever the fuck I wanted if I put my mind to it. Like, it was such a powerful time in my life. And again, it just came from like taking risks and the unknown, and like not being afraid of pursuing something you're not 100% sure of. And yeah, so I was nomadic, and I like got on this Zoom call for this awards show, and I'm sure you guys already guessed, but I freaking won the award. And again, it wasn't like this like crazy award show or anything. Like, I can't even remember how many people were watching it. It like had to be, I don't know, under 500 people. But the person who presented my award, his name is Ron Shaw, and he is very, very pivotal in my success and like just pushing me to my limits, because he owns Obvi Nutrition, and he is he's very big in the like e-commerce space, because he shares a lot of like his tips and tricks, and like he builds in public. And he afterwards, after he presented it to me, I actually didn't know who he was. Sorry, Ron. I didn't know who he was before this, and then I accepted this award, and then afterwards he hit me up and he's like, hey, do you do consulting? And I was like, what do you mean? What's consulting? He's like, can you like take a look and tell me what's going on? Like how my customer experience is at Obvi. And so I was like, yeah, sure. We can chat about that. I don't know what you mean by consulting, but yeah. So I got on a call with him and we just talked about customer experience. We looked at his dashboard and, I was just chatting about good old customer experience, customer support, all those things. And at the end of the call, he's like, well, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, what? I'm just being nice. Like I don't need any money for what I just did. And he tweeted and said something like, just spent an hour with Zoe on my looking at my customer experience, and now I want to tear it all down and start over, something like that. And I didn't know who Ron was or what anything was. I'm just doing a good job and have my head down and I'm working, right? And I think I got like 200 or 300 followers on X from him tweeting, and my DMs got flooded with people asking if I would do an audit for them, if I would consult and all these things. And I think I probably missed so much opportunity from just like not understanding what was going on. But I did hop on I went through my DMs and I hopped on the ones that I thought were cool. And again, I wasn't charging anyone anything. I just was fitting in, fitting in some calls where I could, that was outside of my work hours, because I was still working chomps 9 to 5. And in the same time, I with just getting on more and more consulting calls, it really also helped with my imposter syndrome, because I thought what I was doing was common sense. I was just figuring out. Nobody showed me how to do what I'm doing. I just kind of have critically thought and worked my way through pulling metrics and using different tools and optimizing different tools to be the most efficient, helping the customer, all these things. And at this time too, I had already started learning the retention side of marketing, where if you don't know, there's retention, there's growth, and then there's operations and whatever, everything's in between. With growth marketing, you're acquiring new customers, and you're bringing more customers into your brand. With retention marketing, your goal is to not only, your goal is to take those customers that the growth team is trying so hard to get, and you retain them, and you do anything you can to make sure that they come back and shop with you as much as they physically can. And so that's the world I was learning, is how to make have a great customer experience and marry that with retention, because if you have a good customer experience, your customers probably want to come back. And it's not just the support, but it's all the touch points of your customer, and figuring out how to make sure that they're happy and they're liking the products and they're being reminded of your brand, all these things, so that they continuously come back. So again, I didn't go to school for marketing. I started off as a part-time customer support agent, and now people are asking me for help, and I'm like, what the fuck? How did this happen? But now, thinking back, sometimes I just think my life is luck. But then when I really think about it, a lot of the things that have happened to me are because I have decided that I want to work hard and be the best at what I do, no matter where I am again. And I learned very early on in my adult career, or being adult, I learned very early on being an adult that you can't be afraid of what people think of you, and you have to do what's best for you. And in moments, you do have to be selfish, and you have to do what's best for you. And learning that and going through everything brought me to where I am today. So people are asking me for consulting. People are asking me how much I owe them, or they owe me for my time, and I don't know I don't know. You can give me a Starbucks gift card. Sure. Like, I'll take Starbucks gift card. But people started asking for more and more help. And then by the time I knew it, I was still working full time. And I had 2 to 3 consulting clients that not only were asking me to get on calls, but then they were asking me to help implement. And I was like, okay, so if I work 9 to 5 and I can get on phone, if I can get on calls before 9, which is great, because then I also, I'm working on Pacific time, and I can get on calls with the East Coast people from 6 to 9 my time. So I can fit in this many calls, and I can do work from 6 to 9. That's, implementation for these clients. And then I can also spend my weekends and my nights helping all of these brands. I worked so hard that year after the consulting madness, and I learned so much, because then I started working with different brands and different, I was just like doing the same stuff for different brands, but like also learning so many different challenges, and it was just like, it was such a cool time, but I was working so hard. I was running customer experience, not running, but like I was like doing this implementation and doing customer experience for so many brands in such a small amount of time. And I realized that I couldn't do it alone anymore, because if I wanted to continue doing what I was doing and not turn down work that would be very beneficial for me, as far as, I always wanted to continue to work with the brands that I thought were cool, or ones that I thought I could learn from. And so I decided, I was doing the math, and I was like, if I'm charging this much, and I'm doing this work, but maybe I can hire someone and give them some of the money, and they can work while I'm working my 9 to 5. Let's see if I can make this work. Then I hired Sierra, who used to work with me at Ghost. She was one of my star employees. She was my product specialist employee. And I hit her up and I was like, hey, what are you doing? Can I pay you a lot of money to help me? And it's interesting, because we had tried to do different things in the past, but we just couldn't figure it out. And I was like, how much money do you need? Because I want you and me to do this together. And we were able to figure out what makes sense. And she started working for the agency, which wasn't an agency before. I didn't realize it was an agency until I had 4 employees. And yeah, it's crazy. It just she started being able to help while I would clock out of the consulting at 8:50 a.m. and clock into my Chomps job at 9 and work till 5, and then hop back on the agency at 5 and see how much progress Sierra was able to make while I was working my 9 to 5. And we started getting more and more work, and offering free audits to people so that we can train our employees to our new employees to do audits and what's important to them. And we still do these free audits because I think it's great to give back to brands who need it. And then also we use it as training opportunities to teach our newer employees to how to audit customer experience. So now today, I fast forward, I actually, so many things happened in these last 2 years after starting this consulting and turning it into an agency. I started 2 different podcasts that I was able to monetize because of the just talking about marketing and customer experience and retention and all these things. And I have been able to, start investing in the stock market and I've got 2 cars on Turo now that I rent out, and I've started to be an advisor for different brands where I'm just helping them make their tools the best that they can for their clients. And I've got B2B marketing and social media jobs and all these things where they tell you, if you want to make good money, create multiple streams of income. And I, last year in December, so just 7 months ago, I decided to take the leap and do agency and all of these multiple streams of income full time. I quickly got a position at Audio and Hearing as a VP of Retention and Customer Experience there, and it's the most challenging and most rewarding job ever. And technically, it's a very beautiful thing because they are technically a client to the agency, and when needed, we tap in the agency girls. And last year, I was also able to, full circle, going back to GNC to today, I hired Brittany Furs. I could literally cry thinking about that whole full circle moment because she's taught me so much, and she was in a position where she wanted to work from home and be with her 4 children but still be able to work, and we were able to give that to her. And I could literally fucking cry thinking about that because she helped me so much in my early adult life, and now being able to give back to her and give her opportunities where she can stay at home and be home with her kids, but still she loves to work, and she's so fucking good at her job. Oh my God, she is so good at her job. I'm not surprised she is. But yeah, and we were able to leverage the agency when needed, and it's really, really beautiful because the agency has been built from the ground up as far as like just using my what I believe in, and it's a niche because not a lot of people do it like I do, and I hope that more and more people start to do it the right way and value customer experience and retention, and don't just think about like the money behind the business, but also like the reoccurring money that can come when you treat your customers right and all these things. And so I've really, really have found a niche for just being a good person, doing what's right for your company, but all for your customers, but also your company, because it all comes when you take care of your customers, you take care of yourself. And our little slogan is let us reduce your stress, because a lot of times our number one like clientele type are brands that have grown so fast that they can barely keep up with helping their customers. And so now I cannot believe it, but with all of these different streams of income, I make multiple 6 figures, and I don't say that to brag about the money that I make. To be honest, I'm not very good at managing it. I don't know where it all goes. Jackie does, though. But I also just want to, I want to share it because I never thought that I could be where I am today. Like growing up with not much, in a poverty mindset, south side of Chicago, like I just never thought that I could be where I am today. I own a house. I've got the 2 cars that I have on Turo as part of my income. If you want to watch the journey of the Cybertruck, I got the Cybertruck and making a YouTube channel and monetizing it. It's so fun. Like I never even thought that I'd be able to own a car. Like owning a car seemed out of this world. Like rich people have cars. My family for most of my life shared one car, and like to know that I have more than one bathroom in my house. And like all of these things that I never ever thought that I could accomplish, even if it sounds silly of having more than one bathroom, like that's luxury. And now I'm just looking forward to continuing to grow and to take challenges and not only just like, it's not about the money, but it's also about the lives that we're able to impact. Like, we have such a strong team of strong females that like are making a huge difference in people's businesses and people's lives. And the agency is so important to me to like be able to give people opportunities that they enjoy working for. We've had people, leave. And also, I am the biggest supporter of also the agency being a stepping stone, if that's what you want it to be. If you can help us, in the interim where we need help, but you find something that suits you better or pays you more, I'm going to be your number one cheerleader. And we've had instances where girls have moved on from the agency and then immediately came back because they weren't happy at where they went to, and they realized, even if the agency can't pay them as well, their happiness is more important. And I want to be able to one day pay everyone at the agency so much money. We'll get there one day, but it's actually funny with the agency. I don't make much money from like just singularly the agency. I use my income from like my main client, Audion, and I invest most of the other money back into the agency. And then I've got my other streams of income where I have some passive income and some like, growing a social media and the advising, all of those things that I'll use to, pay myself out and everything. But it's really important to me to invest the money back into the agency so it can grow, and it has its challenges and it's so fun and all these things. But I just like going through that story. If you've made it this far, over an hour in, thanks for listening. I wanted to share my story from, 18 years old to now. 11 years later, I'm 29. I'm very, very excited to turn 30, and because I've heard that you thrive in your 30s, and I feel like I've done really well in my 20s, but there's some things that I want to still accomplish, obviously, and I can't wait to see what like these next like 5-10 years bring. And if you want to check me out on social media, _ Zoe Kahn, ZoeKahn. You can find me most places. And if you want to check out the agency and see what we're all about, you can go to inevitableagency.co, and see what we're all about over there. We're expanding now. There's a new project is mastering offshore, BPO. Stay on the lookout. That's what we're really trying to do, is find some opportunities where people need help, and maybe they don't get the best from other solutions. And so we want to figure out how to make businesses more money, reduce their stress, make more customers happy, and what goes around comes around. And I do want to close it out too at when I was 18 and I had to drop out of school because of those unprecedented, I don't know the word. When I had to drop out of school, I also got kicked out of my house, and I was in a very, very not great mental space. And thinking back to those moments of, holy shit, I am so grateful that when I have a friend who can take me in so that I'm not literally fucking homeless. 2, I really thought that I had nothing. Like, I thought that I was the scum of the earth. And it is really sad for me to think back and like know that I was being so mean to myself. But I let myself feel all the feelings. I was stuck there for, a couple months. I couldn't even find a job. And I realized that I was put myself into this like negative cycle of thoughts where I was just telling myself, I was applying for jobs, but I was like, I'm not going to get this job. I have no experience. And I was applying to another job and I'm like, they're probably not going to call me because why would they? And I would apply to another job and I'm like, well, I don't even know why I'm doing this. They're not going to, they don't want me to work for them. And I also had to swallow my pride and apply to literally every fucking place that, like, I didn't want to be working at Planet Fitness or Culver's. Like, I had to swallow my pride and do what I had to do to make sure that I could freaking eat. And as soon as I started changing my mindset of like, no, I am a great person. I have a great personality. I can figure things out. I'm smart. I don't need a degree right now to be in this season of life. I can figure it out. As soon as I started changing my mindset, I literally got those two. I know it doesn't seem like much, but I got those jobs in the same week and I was able to accept both those offers and work myself out of literally being, I'm not going to say homeless because I was with my friend and I'm so grateful for her, but I didn't have a place to go or food or I was actually, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. I was going to the blood bank in the south side of Chicago where literally like I was sitting next to fucking criminals who had just got out of jail to donate plasma so that I could pay for my phone because I didn't have a phone. And I needed to figure out how I can pay for my phone bill so that I could have a phone to get called back for interviews. And I sat there and I think I could go 48 hours. I would sit there and I would donate plasma so that I could get $40 here, $40 there, pay for my phone bill. And I was willing to just do whatever I needed to do to get to that next step. And if I didn't change my mindset, I could be in a very, very scary position. And I don't know where I would be, but I do know that if I had stayed in that mindset of being scared and like not believing in myself and being so mean, that I would not be where I am today. And I will always honor my mind and always work on it and try to recognize different thought patterns that are not healthy for me because I know how powerful that is. And well, I'm wrapping this up, but if you are someone who is finding yourself in those negative thought patterns, I want to leave you guys with a little tip. I did this when I was 18 and I realized that I was in a negative thought pattern. I would write down my thoughts and I would read them out loud and they would say things like, I'm not good enough to get a job. And I would literally physically scratch that out. And I would write things like, I can do this. I can get a job. Or even just things about like my self-worth of how I looked. My mind would tell me I'm fat and ugly. And I would cross that out and say, I'm beautiful. And my body serves me. And I'm healthy. And going through that, I did that for months. I would write down my thoughts, I would scratch them out, and I would rewrite them in a positive way. Every single thought that you have that's negative can be redone. And I didn't even, until doing that exercise, I don't know where I got that exercise from or if I made it up, I'm not sure. But what I found is that I had so many more negative thoughts than I even realized. Like it was overwhelming to even write them down. And two, I realized that every single thought can be turned into a positive one way or the other. And you don't know in the moment sometimes why things are the way that they are. But if you keep just pushing forward and you have a positive mindset, and you keep practicing the positive mindset, then it starts to come second nature and your mind can be trained to start to think more positively. And when you start to think more positively, you attract more into your life. Now you can ask Jackie. There is so much opportunity in my life now. I know it's 10, 11 years later, but there is so much opportunity in my life now. I don't even know what to do with it. And again, it's a mindset. I know the opportunities out there, and now they just literally come to me. It's fucking insane. I never thought I would be able to be where I am today, and sometimes I think that it's lucky, but then I think back to like all of the hard work that I've put in, the mindset changes that I've made, the sacrifices, the leaps of faith that I've taken and that were so scary. And I've realized that they all brought me to where I am today. And the more and more people ask me kind of like what I do now that I have like, people can start to see, that I have a house and like nice cars and all those things. And people are like, what did you, female, you do to get where you are? And that's a whole nother thing where I'm realizing that being a strong female that is successful is a very interesting place to be in the world. And people don't believe it. I literally was like walking away from the Cybertruck and someone said, "Oh, is that your dad's car?" I'm like, "No." So like I'm having more and more of these conversations where people are asking me, "How did you get where you are?" And I kept thinking that I needed to make a video like this so I could tell people exactly how I got where I am. So that's a little bit about me and where I am in life. And you can do anything you put your mind to, but you do have to work hard and you have to believe in yourself and you have to have positive thoughts. So with that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you've gotten to the end, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'm happy to connect with anyone who has any questions, but I love you guys and we'll catch you next week. Bye.